It's wild to think that one person's ideas brought us light in the dark, music in our homes, and movies on our screens. He didn't just invent a few gadgets, he helped invent the modern world as we know it. So let's get into the story of Thomas Edison. To really wrap your head around his impact, let's just do a quick thought experiment. I want you to try and forget everything you know about modern life. Just picture a world that was completely, totally different. A world with, when the sun went down, that was pretty much it. Your life was lit by the dim, flickering light of candles or maybe some messy oil lamps. Whole cities just went dark, and the workday pretty much ended with the daylight. And get this, the only way you could ever hear music was to be right there, in the room, while it was being performed, every single time. Yep, no cinema, no motion pictures, nothing. The very idea of capturing and replaying moving images, it just didn't exist. Now that was the world before Thomas Edison came along and helped change absolutely everything. So who was this person who could look at that dark, quiet world and somehow see a totally different future? Well, it all started with a relentlessly curious kid. Thomas Edison was born way back in 1847, but he was never your typical student. His real classroom was, well, the entire world. As a boy, he was so curious that he actually built his own science lab in a train baggage car. That kind of hands-on approach led him, as a teenager, to a job as a telegraph operator. And that's really where his journey into technology kicked into high gear. You know, all these early experiences were like the perfect recipe for an inventor. His mom totally encouraged his endless questions at home, some things school just couldn't handle. He also started losing his hearing, but instead of seeing it as a problem, he said it was a gift that helped him concentrate. And all that time working the telegraph, that wasn't just a job. It was a deep dive, a masterclass in electricity that gave him the foundation for everything he'd do next. But here's a thought. What if Edison's single greatest invention wasn't a thing at all? What if he actually invented a whole new way to invent? That's what really kicked off one of the most productive eras in history. Think about it. Before Edison, the image of an inventor was always some lone genius, right? A guy toiling away by himself in a dusty workshop. Edison completely shattered that idea. He created the Invention Laboratory, a place where entire teams of brilliant people could work together, systematically tackling problems. It was literally an invention factory. And this new approach was so ridiculously successful, so seemingly magical in what it produced, that his lab in Menlo Park, New Jersey, earned him that legendary nickname, the Wizard of Menlo Park. And probably the most famous challenge that this wizard ever took on was the quest to bring electric light to the world. But it was about so much more than just a single light bulb. Okay, let's get one thing straight. Edison didn't invent the first electric light, but the early versions were basically expensive novelties that burned out almost instantly. His goal was much bigger. He wanted to create a light that was practical, affordable, and durable enough for every single home and business. He wanted to make light as common as running water. And the amount of work this took was just staggering. To find just one tiny part, that little glowing filament inside the bulb, his team tested over 1,000 different materials. This wasn't a lucky guess. It was a masterpiece of pure, relentless trial and error. But here's where you see his true genius. He knew a perfect bulb was completely useless if you couldn't plug it in. He was thinking about the entire system. So his team also developed the power plants to generate the electricity, the wiring systems to get it into buildings, and even the switches and meters so people could actually control and pay for it. And then, in 1882, it all came together. One of the world's first central power stations flickered to life, and an entire neighborhood in New York City was suddenly bathed in steady electric light. Right there, the modern, illuminated city was born. This way of thinking, this whole new way of inventing, built a legacy that went way beyond light, shaping the very world we're all living in today. At the very heart of all this was his core belief, summed up in his most famous quote. He believed that the idea, that 1% inspiration, was just the tiny little spark. The real work, the 99%, was the perspiration. It was the grind. It was testing 1,000 filaments just to find the one that worked. And boy, did that perspiration pay off, over and over again. He gave us the phonograph, which captured sound for the first time in history. His work on motion picture cameras and viewers laid the groundwork for the entire film industry. And he kept revolutionizing communication, making huge improvements to the telegraph and telephone. So, what's his ultimate legacy? It's not just one thing. He totally changed our daily lives by lighting up the night. He sparked brand new industries from scratch, like recorded music and film. He changed invention itself with that research lab model that's still used today. And maybe most importantly, his incredible drive made him a timeless symbol of persistence, proving that success is built on a mountain of failures. So, in the end, Edison's true legacy isn't just a list of over 1,000 patents. It's the fact that his work built the very foundation of our modern technological world. Just think about it. Every single time you walk into a room and casually flip on a light switch, or every time you listen to your favorite song, a voice recorded and played back just for you, or every time you get totally lost in a movie, you are directly experiencing the impact of the ideas and the systems that he put into motion over a century ago. Which leaves us with one final thought, inspired by the man who tested thousands of materials just to make one little light bulb work. How many times would you be willing to try again after failing? Because Edison's story teaches us that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs are waiting just on the other side of our persistence.